Some huge news coming out of the WWE, and after his scary botch at Clash at the Castle, rumors have it that Damian Priest's ankle is not as bad as originally feared. We're going to get into that, plus Jim Ross on Grillin' JR speaks about the possibility of Shane McMahon joining AEW, and finally AJ Styles is now officially set to return to Japan for the first time in almost 10 years. We have a ton of great stuff to get into, all coming up on this episode of Wrestle Digest, and we're just going to get straight into this, guys. And this is insane. Now, we're going to start with AJ Styles, and this is something I didn't think I would see, at least not until he was done with his time in WWE. But guys, AJ Styles, well, he's officially set to head to Japan, and he's going to have a special match on Pro Wrestling Noah with Naomi Marufuji. Now, this, to a lot of people, is a dream match. Now, I'm not going to claim to be an NJPW or Pro Wrestling Noah or Japanese wrestling fan. That's not really where my fandom lies. However, I've heard the name Marufuji before, and I know the kind of talent that these guys bring to the ring and the kind of banger match that they could have. But it's not so much about the match itself and how it's going to tear the house down when they end up having this on July 13th. It's more so about the fact that AJ Styles is going to wrestle in Japan while still under a WWE contract. Now, this is something that has seemingly been popping up a bit more and more as of late. Now, if I bring this up, guys, don't forget that Shinsuke Nakamura did something for Pro Wrestling Noah just in January of last year. And also, Io Sky. I don't know if you guys remember this, but just a few days ago, it was announced that she's going to face Utami Hayashishita over in Japan as well for Marigold. So this is something that WWE is doing a bit more and more. But AJ Styles, like, this is a guy who is such a big name in Japan. Well, worldwide, of course, because he's one of the best of all time. But he spent his time in TNA for a long time, of course, and then going to NJPW. He won the IWGP World Championship over there. He is a huge name, phenomenal in the ring, and they love him over there. But to see that the WWE is now willing to let one of their top talents go over to Japan for Pro Wrestling Noah and have this kind of event coming off fresh off a feud where he's had 2 undisputed WWE title matches against Cody Rhodes in the premier feud in the company. Well, you could argue that, maybe Sammy and Chad Gable is maybe more of a feud, or Drew McIntyre CM Punk is probably the premier feud. But when it comes to top of the card, AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes, it doesn't get much better than that. So, but to see this is something I just never thought I would see, right? Like, this is something Bryan Danielson would have loved, Daniel Bryan, when he was in WWE. And of course, there were rumors that Vince McMahon actually tried to get to get a deal done with NJPW so that Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan at the time, could go over and wrestle for them. But regardless, to get a guy like AJ being able to head over there, not only will this do so much good for him, but it'll do so much good for the WWE, because there's no way AJ's going to lose over there. He's probably going to win. It'll put maybe some more eyes on WWE, and it's also going to help out Pro Wrestling Noah, because people who love AJ Styles like myself will probably try and tune into this match, or at least try to watch some highlights. So, we don't know how much time AJ Styles has left. There's some people saying, he's getting closer to retirement. Maybe that's why Trips and the WWE are letting him do these kind of crazy things out there. I don't know, but regardless, this is just an incredible thing to see, and I'm loving these crossovers, WWE, TNA, and now Japan and various promotions. It's absolutely insane to witness. But we got to get into some other stuff. And guys, I just want to ask you, before we get into the Shane McMahon stuff, just to subscribe to the channel, because my gosh, like 80% of you guys watching something like that are not subscribed. And we have lots of great wrestling content here on the show, lots of diverse shorts, long form videos. So if you love everything wrestling, hit the subscribe button down below if you like what you're seeing here so far. But we got to talk a bit about this. So Shane McMahon, let me just clarify before we get into this, that this is purely a rumor, but it came up on the Grillin' JR podcast, and Conrad kind of said, hey, that would be crazy, right, JR? I don't even know how it came up. I forget how it came up in the exact podcast. But Jim Ross had this to say in response to Conrad calling this idea crazy. He said, it's so crazy that it might work. Shane called me the other day. He's called me 2 or 3 times, which I really appreciate. He's always been sensitive in that respect. That's only a question that Shane could answer. Shane and Tony Khan being together, how would that work creatively? Heck, who knows? It might be great. Yeah, it might be great, Jim Ross. I don't even know where to start with this idea. The idea that a McMahon could appear in a rival company like AEW. Of course, we know back in the WCW days, Shane McMahon buys WCW and all that stuff. But in today's day and age, with Vince completely ousted from the company, or WWE for good reason, Shane, made an appearance last year, WrestleMania 39, but he tore his quad, so he's kind of been on the sidelines. But if he were to go to AEW, I mean, not only would he get paid lots of money, here comes the money to Shane McMahon for appearing on AEW, because they would probably pay a ton if he could get that opportunity. But also, like, Shane, I don't know what he wants in his career at this point. I think that's kind of the biggest question at this point, because if he wants to have more in-ring action, I just don't see that happening in WWE. Like, at this point, he feels more like not a cheap pop, but a pop just for the crowd. His in-ring talent has always been somewhat suspect, and it's not like he's had every match. It's not like every match he's had has been terrible. He's done some crazy high-risk spots, high-flying spots. Like, he's entertaining when he's on and when he's not trying to make himself the center of attention. Royal Rumble, right? So, but if Shane wants to keep doing in-ring stuff, I think AEW could make some more sense. He could probably have a bit more control over his creative. But I think at this point, Shane McMahon's probably more suited for a managerial role or just some other kind of on-screen personality, which, again, I think could work in AEW. Not saying it couldn't work in WWE. I don't really know. Like, with Stephanie kind of back in the company, I think there's still a world where Shane would probably rather stay in WWE if he wants to appear on TV. But the idea that he could go to AEW and appear for a rival promotion is kind of crazy. But I'm kind of on the side of JR. Like, it's so crazy that it could end up working out for, like, some big pop. I don't think he'd be a weekly presence, but every now and then you see him come out to do some kind of, I don't know, authority type stuff. I don't even know where my mind would start to go with Shane McMahon and AEW, but I'd love to hear from you guys down below. What are your thoughts on this insane possibility? Because I think the possibility is actually higher than 0 that this happens, though I still think it's pretty close to 0, but I'm just really intrigued. Final thing we got to get into today is what you've all been waiting for. We got to talk a bit about Damian Priest. Now, he had a pretty brutal botch at Clash at the Castle. It was hard to watch. Those ring ropes looked really tight all night, and it looks like the ref was warning AJ Styles even in that first match, like, hey buddy, watch out, these ropes are pretty bad. But I mean, you guys all saw it, we all saw it. My gosh, he tried to step on that second rope to jump, and his foot just slipped right through as he gets caught up in the ropes, eventually just left hanging before Drew McIntyre started kicking him in the ribs over and over and over, to the delight of the Clash at the Castle crowd. And immediately after the show, Damian Priest said in his press conference, well, he said this. He said, it feels like trash talking about his ankle. I didn't even go to medical yet, so I could do this and talk to you guys and answer your guys' questions. He said, the doctors will check it out, but I ain't going anywhere. I was able to beat Drew McIntyre on one foot, so I'm pretty sure I'm all good to go. Now, before I get into what Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radio, I just wanted to say props to Damian Priest. Like, I know a lot of people don't like Damian Priest. I'm not the biggest fan of his character. I'm not the biggest fan of him being the World Heavyweight Champion. But he's kind of grown on me in the past little while, and I'm sure he has for you guys too. Just watching him in ring, his ability is actually almost better than I feel like I've given him credit for, and especially after yesterday, where he has just gone through clearly a ton of pain. He was basically on one leg, doing the Razor's Edge, doing a Hurricane Rana, I think, at one point. This dude was going around the ring, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and still managed to win, despite, some CM Punk interference, even though Drew probably would have won if there was a ref in the ring. It is what it is. Hey, I'm going to Money in the Bank. My irrational hope is that Drew McIntyre wins the Money in the Bank ladder match, cashes in on Priest the same night. That would be unbelievable. I'd love to see that in a few weeks. But back to the subject. I just want to give props to Damian Priest. What a match they put on last night. I had a ton of fun from start to finish. Even when he was hurt, he was able to put on a great match. So shout out to him. But we got to get into the quote from Dave Meltzer. And Dave said, I actually heard from them talking about the WWE. And the preliminary news wasn't bad. They're actually saying it's like a miracle. It wasn't as bad as they feared, but nothing is conclusive. So we're still probably going to have to wait. And by the time you're watching this video, maybe we have some more information. WWE kind of doesn't like to disclose this stuff necessarily, like, right away all the time. I think Monday Night Raw might tell us a lot. Who knows? They might make some kind of announcement. I really don't know when we're going to see things from Damian Priest or whether we're going to see an announcement to WWE. Maybe they won't even talk for like a week or two. Maybe they'll just hold Priest out of action while it heals if it's not that bad, or while they figure out the extent of the injury, all this stuff. But yeah, so to hear it's not as bad, like, let me just show you those pictures again, because, like, I don't know how, like, you go from this, so we go from this to this to this, and he hits his head kind of on the ring apron too, and his ankle's all twisted up, and then Drew McIntyre gives him a beatdown, of course. But to go from that to still have a banger match and to come out somehow not seriously injured, like, I'm sure he's hurt. I'm sure his ankle's busted up, and he'll probably have to stay off TV for a little bit, or at least not wrestle for a little bit. It's just an insane show, an insane ending, and props to him for putting up that great match. And I really hope he gets better, because I want to see him. I don't want to see him have to vacate the title. That would drive me nuts. If you see Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest have to vacate their titles due to injury, doesn't seem fair. I do want to see him lose soon, but I don't want him to lose like this. I want him to lose in a real match or to some shenanigans, something else. But let me know down below, are you sick of Damian Priest's title reign? And did you enjoy that match, even though he got hurt in it? Because it was kind of amazing what those two were able to do in the ring. But that'll do it for this episode of Wrestle Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the Wrestle Digest channel if you want all your wrestling news. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.